And I would also point out one thing, because many defenders of euthanasia would argue that an individual has an autonomy over his own body, which means that that person has the right to do what he wants with that body, including taking his own life because of this autonomy. But I would say that this liberal idea of autonomy does not really exist. It doesn't fit with the true view of ethics, which is that you have a free will, you have a reason, but those are supposed to act in accordance with your human nature and respect and serve your being, to put it that way. And to make a choice to destroy that being, you can say that metaphysically speaking, it is you attacking or revolting against your being, and your being is always prior to your choices. So there are metaphysical problems one can point out as well. So
I think you already put some good first remarks on this topic when you said that kind of this idea that you have complete autonomy over your body or your being, and therefore you can also decide to end it, that there is some kind of contradiction in there, maybe, or some kind of flaw, because as you said, your being, your free will or your autonomy presupposes your being, and it seems kind of a problem if something destroys that thing on which it rests.
Yes.
And it reminds me also a little bit of our discussion after our last video, where we talked about antinatalism, and I argued that this moral principle that you should act in a way to bring about the end of life is also self-defeating. It's kind of the same thing, because this moral principle undermines the basis of its own existence, because a moral principle can only exist if there are human beings who hold it. And if the moral principle says that there should be no human beings, then it kind of destroys the basis of itself. And I think this is in many philosophical questions or errors, there is this kind of problem.
That's a very good point that you brought up there. Yes, so when it comes to autonomy, I still haven't quite fully grasped or understood what it really means, because it seems to me that the liberals simply state that human beings have individual autonomy over their own body, and therefore they should have the right to do whatever they want with their body. And I don't see their view, how they reach that view, because it is true that yes, we have free will and we can choose different courses of actions, including choose how to act with our body. And you could say that our mind is the governor of our body, because we choose by our decisions to, for instance, move my hands right now. So that's very true that we are built in such a way, but it doesn't follow that therefore we have the moral license to do whatever we want with our body. So yes, I'm not sure if autonomy is properly understood as the mere fact that you are in control of your body, or if it means by itself that you have the right to control your body. So I'm not quite sure how to define it, but at least there is something about that liberals seem to think that therefore we have a justification for say, suicide or other things. And as you pointed out, no, that doesn't make sense. We exist, we have this being, and our moral choices must be based on, or I would say in accordance with, our human nature and our being. And to revolt against it, to attack it, that is to attack the foundation of our choices. So that doesn't work metaphysically. So yes, that's very true, as you pointed out, and I pointed out there.
Yes, I think this is it's also a very interesting topic, and I can't fully yet put it in words, but I think it's very valuable. And so you brought up also the question of that just because you are in control of something, that doesn't give you the right to do with it whatever you please. Now, speaking from the point of view of the will, or of the consciousness of me as this conscious ego, so I am in control of this body. Okay, I can move the hands, but that it's not per se clear that this gives me the right to do with this body whatever I want. So I could just take a small example. Perhaps some person is hired as, for example, to fly a plane. So he's a pilot and he flies a plane. Now he is in control of this plane, but we wouldn't say that this gives him the moral right to fly this plane now into a mountain, as some person did a couple of years ago, and thereby killing all the passengers, or even destroying the plane. So now this question has come up also in our last video on antinatalism, where someone asked, what gives you the right to bring a new being into life who can thereafter potentially suffer? And I couldn't really answer the question because we didn't, because we would have to define what is a right and what is its origin. So perhaps we could talk about this a little bit right now, because this, I think, is very important also to this question of autonomy. Okay, and so if we go with this definition, which we have now worked out, then you could answer this question, for example, from the antinatalists very easy, because you would say, what gives you the moral right to put children into this world? And the answer would be my human nature, because it's natural to human beings to have children, like all animals. And then what is this right? Well, this right means that I can freely choose to have children or not to have children without thereby being a bad human being.
Right, because it is in accordance with your human nature. Yes,
exactly. And from the same point, you could then also say that this liberal idea of autonomy, where we started, this idea that because my mind governs my body, and therefore liberals conclude that you now have the right, or the moral right, to do with your body whatever you want, that would therefore be wrong, because the moral right doesn't come from your mind, but it comes from your human nature.
Yes, or is based upon and restricted by your human nature.
Yes, and that would, at least then we would come back to this point, can it be that something promotes something which destroys itself? So can human nature give a right which destroys its own existence, or it's not the existence of human nature, but the existence of this instance of this person? Or can this not be?
So to that, I would say that it is impossible for it to be right, because you cannot have the moral right to annihilate your own human nature, because the point of morality is to promote your human nature, and to annihilate it is the exact opposite.
Yes, exactly, because we have also, I think in our last conversation, touched on this, that the point of morality is actually to develop yourself into a good human being, or to fulfill or to actualize your potential or your nature. So morality is kind of the guideline which leads you to this end. And therefore, if you would have a moral principle that says it's okay for you to end your life, then it would go against this purpose of actualizing your potential and becoming a good human being.
Right, yes. The point of morality is to actualize the virtuous goodness that you're supposed to become according to your nature, and therefore you can never have the right to destroy all of that. Now, just a quick clarification. I wouldn't say annihilate human nature when I think about it, because it's not like when you kill yourself, your soul and or your body gets annihilated, but they get separated, and there is harm. So just a brief clarification, but yes, what you said, absolutely, that's true.
Yes, I mean the soul and body question, I think, is a big question, also maybe for a separate discussion. But I think this is interesting that first of all, this realization that everything kind of has a purpose or an end towards which it points, and the purpose or end of morality is to be a good human being, and therefore it cannot be in this inside of this that you can stop existing or living, because then that's a contradiction to being a good human being.